it's working now, so I will start the streaming here on Zoom. Good luck to everyone. Hello, everyone. So we will wait 1 or 2 minutes for to allow all attendees or people registered to join the session, and then we will start. Just a little bit of patience, please. So let's start. Hello, everyone, and welcome to a new webinar by the Global Plant Council. In this occasion, together with the International Safe Cassava Network, that is a usual partner in this webinar series. And before starting, let's go through the logistics again. Some of you are new to the webinar series, so it will be useful. As you can see, because it's already quite active, the chat is completely open, so you can write there whatever you need to introduce yourself and to say hello and to interact with each other. But in case you want to send a question to the speaker, please use the Q&A tool because the chat is too active, so there the questions tend to get lost. So in order to be able to follow the questions and be as proper as possible, please remember to use the Q&A tool. So as I said, today we are together with the International Safe Cassava Network, and we have Professor Ross Gleadow as our moderator for today. Ross, the floor is yours. You are free to start.
Good. Well, welcome everybody. It's always a great pleasure to have these webinars and to have so many people from different parts of the world joining us. Before I introduce our speaker, I just want to give a little bit of background about the International Safe Cassava Network and why we're having these webinars. So the International Safe Cassava Network started a number of years ago as a collaboration of people between neurologists, dietitians, plant scientists, plant biochemists, social workers, medical people, everybody, to come to address the problem of high cyanide cassava and the effect on human health and particularly on humans in causing the disease Konzo. I am based in Melbourne, Australia at Monash University, and I'm a professor there. And I've been working with Dr. Julie Cliff, who was a pioneer in this area, who was at Eduardo Mondlane University in Mozambique. So the Safe Cassava Network is really about studying cassava and other diseases associated with cyanide in cassava. And our aim builds on the legacy of Howard Bradbury, who many of you will know, towards solving this problem of cassava being a fantastic food crop, but also being toxic, by fostering collaboration, fostering knowledge exchange between different types of researchers and those who have either got Konzo, family members, or medical people, so people with lived experience. Importantly, education about the need for processing before consumption and raising the awareness of the problem, and looking for solutions with policymakers and health departments and so on, and to encourage more people to become involved in this issue. I'd also like to introduce here, I'll just go back to my start slide, because Isabel Mendoza, who you've already met, who's the Chief Communications Officer of the Global Plant Council, who I got to know when I was president of that society, and Bethany English, who is running our secretariat, and replacing Kira Ma, who some of you may remember. Kira has another job at the moment. So if you want to view previous the International Safe Cassava Network webinars, you can see them on YouTube. There's a link. Maybe, Beth, you could pop that link in the chat as well. And also our symposium series for last year. You can make, you don't have to pay for these webinars or to be part of the society, but we do have the Konzo Prevention Fund that's funded through the Australian National University that was set up in memory of Howard Bradbury. If you would like to make a donation to that, you can use the QR code there or contact Bethany and she can give you the details. So you don't really want to hear about me. Many of you have heard me before. So what we have today is a seminar a bit different from the ones we've had in the past. We have Dr. Christophe Wiart. He's I realise I forgot to ask how you pronounce your name. He's a French scientist who's worked in all over the world, New York, Europe, and is currently based at the University of Malaysia Sabah. And he's an ethnopharmacologist, chemotaxonomist, and ethnobotanist. This is a very appropriate talk to be having through the Global Plant Council. In terms of the Safe Cassava Network, I believe his talk will help stretch our understanding and inform our approaches to safe cassava by thinking about the links or talking about the links between nature, evolution of chemicals in plants, Indigenous people, and the consequences for health and disease and medicine. And so just a bit of logistics just before I pass to Christophe. After Christophe speak for about 20 minutes, maybe 25 minutes or so, we will then have the Q&A, which question and answer, which will be facilitated by Isabel Mendoza. So I think that is the end of my slide. So I will stop that. So just one thing I want to say about Christophe is I think you're going to introduce yourself, but you've worked all over the world, you're very highly esteemed, and we look very much to hearing what you have today. So Christophe, if you would share your slides, we look forward to hearing your talk today.
Thank you very much. Ross, do you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you well.
Okay. So I will share my slide, okay? Please let me know if you see them, all right? Is that okay?
Not yet.
Oh, okay.
So your PowerPoint is open?
Yes, it is.
Yes. So go to the sharing tool.
What about here?
Go to the sharing button in the...
One second, sorry. Yeah? Okay, so I'll go to share. Then after this, I'll go
You
to
choose
the
the
talk.
PowerPoint.
and then click on share, right?
Mm-hmm.
How is it?
It's working. Now make it full screen slideshow.
How is it?
There. Now perfect. It's working.
All right. Shall I start the talk?
Yes. Go ahead.
So, first of all, I would like to thank my friend and colleague, Dr. Matthew Bramble. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you very well.
Who is doing a fascinating and fantastic work in Children's Hospital in New York. I am deeply in debt to him for giving me the pleasure and honor to be with you today for a simple talk. I'm also grateful to the members of the International Safe Cassava Network, Dr. Rosely Gleadow, and also Dr. Mendoza and Bethany English. Thank you very much, everyone, for allowing me to speak today. It's a timely talk. I hope I will not be a prophet of doom. I don't want to make everyone nervous, but the world is facing ecological and a biological situation which we have probably not experienced since beginning of human history. My name is Christophe Wiart. I am a French citizen. I am a pharmacist. I have a PharmD and a PhD. I am ethnopharmacologist, which in simple word means that you walk into villages, of course, after having all the authorization and paperwork, and you live with people there and you learn from them on the plant they're using for blood pressure, cancer, viral diseases, all sorts of things. And then my job is to filter all of this, to analyze all the data, and to try to find a magic bullet, a plant that can be used for further extraction, isolation of lead compounds for the treatment of cancer, HIV, and all type of diseases. I have spent about 30 years in Southeast Asia, where I have been examining the therapeutic, nutraceutical, and cosmetological potentials of medicinal plants, but also I have some interest in primary rainforest plant. In fact, since a young age, I have been fascinated by drugs, medicines, and so that's all about me. Let's go into what is important about science. I hope the presentation will be working. So let us speak about looking for medicines from the plants of this part of the world, which, by the way, Southeast Asia is one of the zone in the world where you still have ethnic groups with their ancestral cultures being preserved, okay? And you also have, in terms of botany and evolution of plants, we can say some scientists claim that flowering plants are coming mainly historically from this part of the world. So you've got here two things that are going to meet, which are impressive set of cultures and traditions, although these are being right now, being endangered, together with a plant, a flora, which is unique on Earth. But all of this is actually, shall I say, perhaps being endangered. So let's go into that. Do you see this slide?
Yes, we see the second slide.
So my message to the people which are listening to us is that we have to get ready. We cannot, how shall I say, envisage the future to be sweet and nice and the world to be as it was. COVID-19 has been a big problem for many people. Of course, we went through that. Okay, it was a shock. Economies throughout the world were shut down and people were at home and no medicines for 2 years and people were dying without medicines. Okay, but this is not what I think, or I think it, but also what the scientific community is aware is that COVID-19 is a small thing. In the sense that if we continue to push nature to its limit, we are going to reach a point where we may have, okay, some days, the emergence of a new virus or a bacteria or a fungi or something else, which is going to shake the world. COVID-19 had a death rate, I think, was about less than 5%, but we may go for zoonotic organisms, which may really have some significant, death rate. Zoonosis, for those who are not knowledgeable in that term, is nothing, in simple words, the transmission of a virus, bacteria, or fungi from an animal into a human. And you've got on the left side of this slide a drawing made by, I think, it's, what is his name? I forget. Durer, I think, in 1484, which shows a man, actually it's a mercenary coming back from the war in the 15th century in Italy, and you can see that this man is covered with blisters. This man suffers from syphilis, okay? And syphilis, from the 15th century up to the beginning of the 19th century, was untreatable. They tried mercury, they tried other plants, but it was a death sentence, okay? It is an example of zoonosis. We also have, more recently, COVID-19, although there is still subject of debate, but some believe also some evidence suggests that it may come from sort of animals in China, and influenza, okay? So this is a real threat to humanity, and nature itself must be considered as an intelligent entity. And nature, the whole of the tree of life, you have biological laws, okay? And if human beings continue to cut the forest, dirty the seas, and put thousands of chicken in small farms and feeding cows with bones, then we know that, and I think that this is not going to stop. I think that some people are going to go until the end, but one day we are going to get a big blast, and we are not. An example of a virus which is zoonotic and which has a very high rate of mortality is the Ebola virus, okay? If, and most probably within this coming few hundred years, okay, this type of things may come out. And you imagine the state of the world, okay? We may go into very, sinister time, okay? So I don't want to be negative. I'm just trying to create awareness to illustrate the fact that we are in a time in history where we need more drugs. We need new molecules to get ready to fight these enemies. So risk of new pandemics. Okay, so we are actually, we've got warning, okay, that new pandemics are on the way. And some experts, as in this paper published in 2022, saying that there is a real threat of rapidly moving, highly lethal pandemic of a respiratory pathogen killing 50 to 80 million people and wiping out nearly 5% of the world economy. Okay, so we have to accept the fact that we need to get ready because bugs are coming our way full speed and we are not ready. We have published in 2005 publication, an article which reports the antiviral activity of some diterpenes produced by a medicinal plant used in Southeast Asia, Andrographis paniculata, and these terpenes are able to inhibit the replication of herpes simplex virus type 1. And this plant has been utilized in North Borneo at the time of COVID, okay? And although we don't have publications, reporting its efficacy in Sabah, it worked. Thai researchers have published papers describing the efficacy and safety of this plant with patients with mild COVID-19, okay? So the message is that we are now relying on medicines, okay, in the world. All right. So when we were in US or Europe at the time of COVID-19, we don't have herbalism anymore. There is no more bachelor degree of, herbalism, a training, trained, licensed professional herbalist, okay? It does not exist. But in Southeast Asia, some people were able to save their lives because of traditional medicine. Another big problem that the world is facing and is going to face more if the pharmaceutical industry does not push more research in antibiotics is the case of antibiotic resistance. We have now some bacteria in hospital settings which are becoming resistant to almost all antibiotics. So it seems that we are coming back to the time before antibiotic came. People in the 19th century were dying of tooth infection and were dying after giving birth, okay? The golden age of antibiotics is finishing. So we need more than ever new antibiotics, but also molecules which are able to potentiate the activity of antibiotics. This is a seventh thing that we need. So for the last 30 years, I've been looking into that. Okay. Several in Asia produce secondary metabolites which are antibacterial and also antibiotic potentiator, and we have published that in some peer-reviewed journals. The message is that by studying the medicinal plant and also the rainforest plant, especially in the countries and in the tropical world, there is the real potential, and I wait my words, to find molecules, new chemical frameworks, new pharmacophores, which will allow us to survive. We need weapons to fight zoonotic diseases. We need weapons to fight nosocomial infections. And we have published in 2015 an article reporting the antibacterial activity of alkaloids from a rainforest plant called Artabotris tracifolius. Okay, and there are many papers, about that. Now, we have seen the viruses, we have seen bacteria, and then we've got fungi. Okay, there is also the case of parasites, but I will not go into that, okay? So during the COVID-19 pandemic in India, they have isolated strains of Candida, namely Candida auris, which were completely untraceable. So again, I don't want to be a prophet of doom, but the scientific community, we know that we are at the foot of a bacterial, fungi, and viral tsunami. And if we do not take action, if governments don't take action, then the populations will be in danger and it's going to be civil unrest, okay? Again, I don't say that. You look into published evidence and the situation is not good, all right? Now, I speak about all of this because one of the reasons why I came to Southeast Asia and worked there for 30 years is that I have tried my best to examine each and every medicinal plant used from India to roughly the Pacific Islands. And
I think Christophe's frozen, Isabel.
Yes, I think
to develop.
he's back.
Oh, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. You were frozen for a bit, but you're back now.
Okay. So I repeat again. So for the last 30 years, okay, I have been in Southeast Asia and examining the plants, medicinal plants from roughly India to the Pacific Islands. And for each of these plants, my intention was to examine their phytochemistry, pharmacology, toxicology, medicinal use, and to link all of these aspects to find candidates that can be used for the pharmaceutical industry and local businesses to develop medicines, okay? So you've got books about plants of Bengal and Asia Pacific, books about zoonotic diseases. I won't speak too long about this, okay? And also I spoke about plants for aging. And I came to Sabah and I wrote a book about the plants of Sabah, North Borneo. Sabah is a state of Malaysia. Sabah is located at the north of Borneo. And it is basically not a very big state, okay? It has how shall I say, a surface area which is roughly about the same as Ireland, and it is tropical, all right? And it's beautiful. If you want to, of course, come for holiday, you've got Mount Kinabalu. It's a beautiful place to be and to live. And I came here just like that, you know. It happened that I came for a while to work there, and that state of Sabah was initially covered by a beautiful, amazing, pristine primary rainforest. But now it's gone, okay? We only have left some islands and strips of primary rainforest, and we know that within 50 years, it's to be fit, all right? Now, the problem about cutting rainforest for palm oil is that, yes, countries can make money with palm oil, but people of importance and power need to understand that in their primary rainforest molecules, which are able to treat cancer and other diseases, and this represents enormous financial benefits in terms of pharmaceutical industry. I know, and many of us know, that plants from the primary rainforest produce molecules which are magic bullets, okay? Plants in the primary rainforest, many of them are endemic and cannot be found anywhere. Once you cut them, they are gone. Once the species disappear, the molecule that can treat diseases, and in fact, new diseases are coming, new zoonotic diseases are coming, okay? Now, the question is that you choose for some fast, quick benefits with an oil which basically is not good for health. Palmitic acid is known to induce insulin resistance, high blood pressure, diabetes, so forth and so on, okay? It's a poison, okay? A legal poison. I don't say that, it is published, okay? And or to preserve your trees, to have international collaborations, and to find molecules going to benefit the world and save lives. So Sabah is also interesting because you've got in Sabah still some ethnic groups which have preserved their, traditional knowledge. Okay, this is a publication, a paper that has been not so far ago, 2013, yeah, okay, which is that you can consult, which is going to provide evidence to the fact that the tropical rainforest of Sabah is actually on the way of extinction. And by the way, even in reserves, forest reserve, you've got illegal logging. It is possible for some people to just uproot a timber tree with a machine, and you won't see the stamp, okay? So illegal practices are made. By the way, cutting the rainforest not only means the disappearance of molecules of pharmaceutical interest, but also in Europe. And I speak to my family members in France regularly. We spoke about this just now. Heat waves are actually hitting Europe. Waves are going to increase in intensity and temperature. And this is because, at least in part, we have cut the primary rainforest in the world. Can you hear me well? Okay.
Yes.
Now, this is a very friend of mine living in the Dusun village, a Dusun lady. I worked with her in the villages. I've got all my permits. I got access license and export licenses. In Sabah, you cannot work in the jungle. You need to have a lot of red tapes. It's okay. And I'm working here with one of my postgraduate students with villagers. We have collected some plants used for various, illnesses. And we also have here photos of people, working for us. This plant basically is used for the treatment of infections. Okay, what is interesting with plant is that some of them are being used for food, and you can develop them as nutraceutical. Fighting viral infections, bacterial infections, or fungal infections can be done not only with molecules, but also by stimulating the immune system. So you've got plants which are not only containing antibacterial substance, but they're going to stimulate your immune system to allow you to fight disease. For instance, in phytochemistry, we know that polysaccharides, beta, okay, are immunostimulating. A lot of plants throughout the world are used because of that. This is a very nice lady in the village, a friend also, and she's holding a plant in the family post, which is used for the treatment of bacterial infections. And we are right now studying the phytochemical constituent of this plant. Another example, this one has been the family Laurentaceae. So this is the type of small herbariums that we are doing, and this is what we are doing. Okay. So again, I spoke about the fact that what is interesting in ethnopharmacology is that when you go to villages, they will very often say, I mix that plant with soup or I eat raw leaves, etc. So these are what we call medicinal food plants or functional foods. And this is something which has an enormous market. The world needs new nutraceuticals. We need plants to be manufactured to make disease for immune system, cardiovascular diseases. And my message is that you've got right now throughout the world, I speak to all the people, if you are, wherever you've got in your countries, especially developing countries in the village, a lot of plants used for food. And it is important that these plants, medicinal food, and these have enormous nutraceutical global, they have global nutraceutical potentials. And these plants need to be examined before the shamans die, before the traditional healers die, because we are now living in a time of globalization. That's okay. That's the way it is. Okay. Traditional knowledge is being, it is happening. So we cannot waste time. Okay, so for 5 years, we have been studying the plants here and resulted into a number of publications, including this one, in which we warn we make a warning that in the case of Sabah, but unfortunately, I could say that in many developing countries, the whole system of red tapes, the whole system of lack of funds, the education system, all of these are in such a way that it's not possible for those people, for these countries to explore their sources. You need international collaboration. There is something called the Nagoya Protocol, okay? And this is an hindrance to national international collaboration. How many of my colleagues in Germany or everywhere, people in the Philippines or in India, and they cannot publish their results, or they have to burn their data because of these red tapes. Can you hear me? Okay.
Yes.
So the world, as I say, is not in a safe. Of course, you've got now what's happening in geopolitics, but this is not, doesn't interest me. I only like science. Okay, biologically, ecologically, we are not in a good time now. Okay, and if we don't unite and work together to examine this plant, then that's going to be painful. But for that, we need to ease the red tape. We need internationally to have easier means of collaboration. We need inter-university collaboration. It is a matter of survival. Because rainforest is being cut for palm oil. Villagers, living their village, okay? So we have a very small time frame. In regards to infectious disease, Sabah has about 1,600, but there is much more. And throughout the world in developing countries, you still have plant unknown, which are awaiting discovery. People are dying in hospitals. Children are having leukemias, okay? They don't have, some of them are untreatable. Some cancers are untreatable, okay? The world is aging. Some people in the old age get Alzheimer. There's still so much to do to alleviate these human sufferings. And the molecules are right now in many developing countries, okay? But the whole system, as it is for now, we cannot find this medicine because of red tapes and other administrative and financial constraints. So in Sabah, many of them are used for fever, viral infections, bacterial skin infections, cough, so forth and so on. Very simple examples of plant used for bacterial infections. One of them is Annona muricata in the family Annonaceae, which is known with the name of soursop, and it is used for cough by various ethnic groups in Sabah, such as the Murut, Dusun, and Kalazan. This is the type of medicinal plant which we can say common. This is just for education purposes. I hope that some students are listening to us, okay? There is a lot of things to do. I would encourage young students, undergraduates, to go into pharmacy, phytochemistry, and pharmacology of natural products. It is a fascinating scientific endeavor, So Annona muricata, nothing will be done with that. It's a toxic plant, okay? If you eat too much of the fruits, you get Parkinson. But it is the type of plant that is used in Southeast Asia for cough, okay? And the active constituents are probably acetogenins or aporphins. But although it is not known to have, to produce active constituents with tremendous activities, it is even used in the Philippines for infection. We've got here a very famous plant in Sabah, and I suspect also in the Philippines and perhaps within the West Austronesian world, which is Blumea balsamifera in the family Asteraceae. That one is used for postpartum, and the rationale for its use is, number one, it contains some polysaccharides which are styptic. They are going to stop blood flow, also contain anti-inflammatory substance, contain camphor, but from that plant, nothing important is going to be discovered. Now, I would like to speak about a plant which is very dear to me. The Latin name of this plant is Scorodocarpus bornensis. Scorodocarpus roughly in Latin means an extremely smelling fruit. Bornensis from Borneo. Beccari was an Italian botanist that spent a few years in Borneo. We owe him fantastic work on the flora of Borneo in the family Olacaceae. That plant is not very well known internationally. It is called garlic tree in English in this part of the world. And you have here photos of the kernels. And when you break the kernel, you've got inside some seeds which have an horrible smell, but the seed contain a, can you hear me? The seed
Yes, we can.
contain, thank you very much. The seed contains some very unusual series of polysulfides, which are able to inhibit the growth of a broad array of fungi, okay? So if one day you've got suddenly throughout the world a zoonotic disease with a dermatophytic fungi, which is completely untreatable by conventional antifungal agents, there is hope with the traditional medicines of Southeast Asia, and one of these is that plant, okay? So the main message is that Malaysia, Philippines, Thailand, Burma, Laos, Vietnam, Bangladesh, India, Papua New Guinea, but also South America, tropical developed countries, you've got within your villages and primary rainforest plants which are able that can be used for the development of medicines to prevent, I mean that when zoonotic disease come, you'll be ready, okay? So we made a little paper about this plant. Also, we are looking into plants which are non-medicinal. So you may ask me, but how do you select a plant which is non-medicinal? The answer is called chemotaxonomy. It means that when you are able to look into a plant, like in this one is a plant in the family Phyllantaceae in the order Malpighiale, okay? Then you're able to relate to a certain type of constituents. In this type of constituents here, we've got some lignans and tannins. And we know that lignans especially can have strong antibacterial properties. So the primary rainforest throughout the world must be preserved. I may sound a bit naive. I may sound a dreamer. It's okay. Let me speak, okay? We are in a time in history where we have to stop logging of primary rainforest. It is a matter of survival for human health. But by the way, we'll be forced, because when you have 60 degrees centigrade in Paris, okay, and when you are going to have public unrest, you will have to take action to stop cutting the primary rainforest, okay? So that's it for my presentation. I want to thank you very much. I would like to end with a positive tone. The enemy, the bugs, are in front of us. And again, if you don't believe me, look into published evidence, listen to from experts. Okay, we all know that it's just a matter of time before one day you open your TV or your radio and you are going to hear, yesterday in Africa, 50 million died, okay, suddenly, okay, all right. Imagine a new virus or something comes out, no treatment, because the population is actually growing, you know. Zoonotic disease are able to do well, if we may say, okay, when you've got high population density, okay? And time in history, we've got that plus transportation, okay? So you may one day hear within 50 years, perhaps 100 years, and I hope not, okay, saying that suddenly something happened in Africa and then it's going to be panic, okay? We are not going to wait for this bacteria to come or virus outdoor. We must work together, find the molecules, get research funds, work with organizations to protect the population. And this can be done at least in part by looking into the medicinal plants and non-medicinal plants of Southeast Asia. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Christophe. That was fantastic. Isabel, do you want to start now or will I continue?
Whatever you prefer. Do you want to start? And then I go to the Q&A tool. And so this way we can allow people to keep sending questions there.
Okay, that's good. So that was really good and really interested, and I am really interested in this whole area. In fact, as well, and that's one reason why I got interested in cassava is for that reason. With the so many of these compounds are very useful, and you have to find them, and this is important. Did you also discover problems with poisonous plants that the indigenous people have different methods for making it safe?
Yes. So as we discussed before the beginning of this presentation, you've got, for instance, in India, a plant called Acalypha indica, and other plants like Pangiomedale edule, sorry, in Southeast Asia, and cyanides are being removed by boiling. This is the what is it? The standard method, okay? But cyanides are not the only toxins in plant. I wish the people that listen to us, I mean, for those which are perhaps undergraduate students or don't have yet, or I'm not saying here that medicinal plants are safe. Plants can be safe, but they can be also extremely poisonous. Okay, you've got, for instance, in Southeast Asia, a plant which is used as a tonic. Okay, it is called Tongkat Ali. The scientific name is Eurycoma longifolia. It is a very popular plant in Malaysia, and I don't want to become unpopular, but this, which is now in the market, is able to give prostate cancer in rats. Okay. Toxicology is a fundamental component of natural product research. Okay. In regards to traditional medicines, it appears that for some reasons, healers and shamans know about the poisonous effect, and they have techniques to remove traditionally these, toxins. Another plant used for traditional medicine in this part of the world, very famous, is Morinda citrifolia, that you call noni fruit. It is the fruit's juices are available, but they contain enormous amount of potassium. So if someone has kidney failure, you are going to have a kaliemia, which is going to be lethal. Okay, and we can multiply the examples. Yeah.
Yeah, that's really good. And what about the knowledge of that? So is it the old people that have the knowledge of how to process? This is one of the problems that we have with cassava, is that the old people might know, but maybe the young people living in the towns don't know.
So what happened is that, but this doesn't sound very scientific, okay? Although we may in the future be able to look into paranormal activities or, I don't know, connection with other dimensions. I am appalled, okay? But I witnessed and I know that some of these shamans and healers will actually meet with someone and say, okay, I've got this problem. They will sleep, and then they will get some sort of dreams, or they will speak to some spirits, and they will have some sort of guidance, And when we look at the plant they are selecting, it works, okay? So it seems that the knowledge of these people, and I respect that, I am not being contemptuous. I do not claim that we know everything about science. In fact, we know not much, okay? That we cannot look down with contempt into paranormal, medium, psychic, although there are many quacks, okay? But it happens that, and this is not rare, that they know where to get the plant, what part of the plant to collect, and how to prepare the plant, They have this knowledge. apart from that, from the plant that they've been using for hundreds of years, they know. For instance, there is a plant called here Mata tree. I don't know if I can remember the Latin name, but it is in the family Timelaceae. And sorry, I forget the species, the genus and the species. But they know, for instance, that the fruit is good, the seed must be thrown. They have their knowledge, they have their pharmacopoeia, you know. But again, although we already have a number of traditional texts and a number of books published, etc., I believe that the amount of what we don't know in terms of traditional knowledge is bigger than what we know. I believe that we are sitting down on a pile of gold, an iceberg of human traditional culture. We are our ancestors. I mean, wherever you are in Peru, Chile, Papua New Guinea, whatever, people have been living with nature, respect with nature for tens of thousands of years, and they have a human knowledge that we need. And I think that we have not yet, you know, managed to harness the diamonds. It's there, but we are now in a time in history where globalization, it's okay. It's one world village, it's beautiful, okay? Can take a plane, go to New York, okay, it's good, okay, it's fine, Google, all okay, WhatsApp. But young people are not going to become shamans anymore. Okay, they take Panadol or they go doctor. Okay, so the knowledge is liquefying. That knowledge, which is so precious for public health right now, is liquefying. It's going to be soon vanished. You know, so we are now in a time in history where the door is slowly closing, and now it's almost, and once it's closed, what do? We cannot rely on organic chemistry solely for drugs. Morphine is coming from a plant used by, it was used in Babylonia, it was used in Egypt, you know. Papaver somniferum album contains morphine. Morphine is helping people to die comfortably, okay? It doesn't come from the brain of an organic chemist, okay? So yes, organic chemistry has given us fantastic medicines, but I feel that we are being unjust and looking with contempt into natural products. And I would suggest to perhaps go back into that and, you know, to not thinking that pharmacognosy, materia medica, and traditional medicine is not an obscure topic of science. No, it is actually one of the means, one of the means to save lives. Yeah.
Yeah, that's very interesting. I think this leads actually into our first question in the Q&A. Isabel, do you want to ask Peter Spencer's question there?
Yes, I will read it out loud. I do not question your important call for greater research on phytochemical discovery, but I suspect that AI will or already is designing large numbers of in silico chemicals for synthesis and testing for pharmacological toxicological properties. Should both approaches be utilized, in your opinion?
AI is a fantastic tool. It's very nice. AI is a double-edged thing, okay? I come from the old school. I'm born in 1967, like many of us, okay, where there is no phone and there is no AI and there is only books, and AI is good, but I feel that what the world needs to survive are intelligent, hardworking people. We need people with IQs. We need people which are able to spend hours reading books in the library, people which have skill, which are able to really look into research material, have intimacy with the research material, be able to spend hours and hours and hours to read publications and books and have their own set of data, develop their brains, and then at the end, perhaps when they write the reports or do the research, they can a little bit sometime ask AI, but AI can be wrong, okay? And the problem of AI is that when you look at undergraduate students now and even sometimes postgraduate, and I don't blame them, okay, because it's there, okay? I think that it is detrimental for the future generations in terms of real skills, okay? In terms of also remember that if one day there is a big global catastrophes, you cannot use your AI anymore, okay? All right? It is important to have, you know, I'm from the old school, okay? And I'm not, you know, an oracle of knowledge, okay? But my humble opinion is to universities to make sure that they're going to produce people that are hardworking and are depending on their brain first and their skills and next on AI. Also regarding to the use of AI for drug discovery, I am not very warm, but you can, okay? Nothing is better than to take your boots and go in the village and to speak to human beings and to get knowledge and to work with paper and pen and to use your brain and to do research on Google Scholar, look at published evidence and read books, okay? And once all the work is done, you can a little bit go into AI, okay? But I think that, yes, AI can help you, but AI is a tool,
Yeah, it's
okay?
part of the story, not the whole
Yes,
story.
yes, exactly,
I
yes.
think we'll move on to the next question. Also, Peter below has given some more information about the information about Lathyrus and Lathyrism, which is a very actually a Konzo-like disease. So if you can have a look at that, we might cut and paste that into the chat so everybody make sure everybody sees that, because I think that if you want, yeah. The next question by Fahim Afzal Shah. He's asking, or he or she is asking, do herbal medicines have a future in Europe?
That's a very good question. Thank you for asking that. That is brilliant, okay? Europe will have no choice but to accept traditional medicines, okay? We have got in Europe very good health system. We've got excellent legislations which are made to protect the populations against quacks, okay? And against fraudulent products, okay? But with the zoonotic diseases and with other health problems which are going through the way of the world, Europe will have, in my opinion, my very humble opinion, schools of pharmacy or schools of medicine will have to re-implement a traditional teaching of materia medica or traditional medicine, because if you want to develop medicines from traditional medicine plants, you need to be knowledgeable in human physiology, in pharmacology, in botany, organic chemistry, toxicology, so forth and so on. And all of this is actually a professional degree. It is not possible for you to come and say, I want to help you to develop a drug with plant if you are just a phytochemist or a pharmacist or a medical doctor. Europe and the world, universities, will have to re-implement materia medica and pharmacognosy, a 5-year course to provide degrees of certified herbalist or pharmacognosist. In France, for instance, we had until, and this is not a good time in French history, a very sad story, 1941, okay? We had until 1941 in France, national degrees of herbalism, okay? But now, people during COVID-19, they did what? And I don't blame them. They go to internet and they buy online products. But no, it's not safe, you know? Whatever is being produced must go through the end of a certified, licensed pharmacognosist. So Europe will be forced to actually go into re-implementing the teaching of pharmacognosy and opening its door to global medicinal plants. Okay, that is my answer. Yeah.
Thank you. Isabel, do you want to ask the next question?
Yes, so I'm gonna jump to the question by Sarah Jose. Are
Yep.
projects like seed banks useful for future proofing, or are they relatively unhelpful if the traditional knowledge is already lost? Can we predict plants that might be good candidates for the medicinal compounds without guidance from local people? So that's the question.
We can actually, as I said in the presentation, go into the chemotaxonomic strategy, which is basically you work in the primary rainforest and you are able to identify plants which belong to a certain taxa, like for instance, Apocynaceae, Rubiaceae, etc. And you know that this type of plants produce some sort of natural products known to tend to have interesting pharmacological activity. But I will say to the person that if you look into the most important medicine found so far in clinical practice from plants, they're coming from traditional medicine. For instance, you've got artemisinin. Artemisinin is coming from a plant which has been used for thousands of years in China. By the way, China is a country in the world where they have hospitals, traditional Chinese medicine hospitals. They have preserved their, traditional Chinese, patrimony, and they are doing very well, morphine was also coming from traditional medicine, quinine as well, reserpine as well,
Mhm.
Yes, this is, so you are free to do whatever you wish, but in my opinion, traditional medicines are better candidates for drug discovery.
So next question by Jonathan Semay. To identify the useful chemical properties in a plant requires some amount of financial investment.
Yes, completely.
How or where can young scientists and graduate students get the financial support to explore plants for their full chemical potentials for the benefit of humanity?
You know what? That is a fantastic question, and I agree with you. And many of us are passionate about plants. Many of us want to find the molecules, but to find the molecules cost an enormous amount of money, especially you are in the third world, okay? My humble advice is for you to collaborate with universities in the US or in Australia or in developed countries. You can also, what you do is that you can start, first of all, to have your own database, okay? You've got your datas, and you can publish your datas that can help people throughout the world to find molecules. You can also try to send emails to people from labs, other universities, But again, as we said, the problem is the Nagoya Protocol. Because according to that protocol that was made in the 90s, you cannot send compounds or extracts by post to a university in Europe because you need a lot of red tape, So the answer is that, as I said just now in my presentation, as for now, the system is in such a situation that it is extremely difficult for people in the third world to exploit their traditional medicine. So you need to preserve. If you can't at least, isolate the compound, you need locally to save the traditional knowledge. You need to grow the plants. You need to make gardens. You need to preserve your patrimony, But don't lose hope. Continue. You look into people around the world, send messages. You can at least make some extracts. And you can send extracts with, of course, all the permits to good laboratories in the developed countries, and you can collaborate. And in fact, many of us are doing that. It is something that we in the developing world, we tend to do, okay? Because grants nowadays in developing countries do not go for traditional medicine, they go for AI, okay?
Yes.
Sorry.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's a really good answer. And in fact, about the Nagoya Protocol, because I know the Global Plant Council has policy documents and advice around that on their website.
Yes.
Perhaps Beth could post a link to that.
Yes, we did. We did a series of webinars in order to understand what was the Nagoya Protocol a couple of years ago, and they are still available on the YouTube channel. So I will post a link to that as well. So we are a bit.
So
yes, Christophe.
one more to answer the person just now is that you don't even have to go to the pure compound. You go to a village. Someone says we are putting those leaves, make them in soup for infections. Okay, you can on your own, work with clinicians in your own countries, or approach local businesses, and tell them, okay, we want to patent that in our own countries. We want to make these plant powders, make a tea. Is it working? And that's good enough. In fact, when you want to develop traditional medicines as OTC, you don't need to go through the natural constituents, Look, for instance, coffee, okay? A good cup of coffee in the morning is good. It's paradise, right? We don't drink caffeine. We enjoy coffee beans, okay? Tea is the same, okay? You can just go for capsules or tea bags, but you need to go through all the process of toxicology.
I'm just going to sort of move more quickly. Thank you very much for the questions. Peter and Peter Spencer's also written something about the work that's going on at the University of Natal in South Africa about isolating and growing plants in concordance with the Nagoya Protocol. But I want to just answer this anonymous question, which is also in Africa, that they do have traditional medicines in parts of Africa. And just to summarize, in your view, do you believe Africa is up to date with the current trends of herbal medicine?
Africa, we owe an enormous amount of knowledge to Africa. Africa is home to a lots of ethnic groups with very precious shamanic knowledge. You have in Africa in fact, Africa is, although being a very large continent, when we look in terms of publications, when we look in terms of research, it is sad to say that it seems that it is not being examined too much. You've got some scientists from Belgium have done a good work, okay, but most of what needs to be discovered in Africa is not known, okay. Tropical Africa especially, okay. You've got there still, a lot of plants awaiting discoveries, plenty of natural products of tremendous clinical, you may think that Dr. Wiart is very optimistic, but I'm telling you that I spent 30 years on that. 14 books have been published, and whatever I say is carefully weighted. I'm not a dreamer or a naive optimist. I am telling you, and you can look into bulk of published evidence, that you've got a mine gold awaiting to be, explored. But again, globalization, deforestation, mining, all of this is actually putting enormous threat on all of that. And again, if we don't stop, I mean that within 50 years it's all gone. We are going to miss, the magic bullets. We are going to miss things that will protect us against diseases and the new one comings. Yeah.
Okay, over to you, Isabel.
So we have a last question that it's I think it's of interest of every student in the room. It's not as much connected with medicinal plants as others, but the question is, I would want to find out if there are PhD positions available with affiliated institutions for the new application window. And I think this is a question specifically for Christophe and Ross, who have some authority and some responsibility in educational institutions.
Sorry, Isabel, I do
Yeah,
not
it's really
understand.
about people who want to explore a PhD in this area.
Okay.
I think you do. You have to keep. You have to look. You have to look for publications that are out and people who are working in different areas. And that's all I can. That's the only thing I can offer at this stage. Christophe, do you want to add to that?
I agree with you fully, Ross. I would like to say also that, and I may shock people, okay, by saying what I say, but the PhD, the master's, okay, it's important. It's a piece of paper and okay. So, of course, I advise you, if you can afford it, okay, if you can get scholarship from your governments to go to well-known universities in the developed world, okay? US, Australia, Germany, okay. If you can afford it, it's good for you. You come back to your country, you've got a lot of good skills, you can do the work, okay? If you cannot afford it, do not despair. A number of very brilliant scientists throughout history didn't get a PhD from big universities, but from small universities, and you may get a PhD from Bangladesh. But if you are passionate, if you work very hard throughout your life, if you really work for the sake of science and not for the sake of whatever, if you dedicate your life, you are passionate by your every day you read papers, you write every day of your life, you work, you read, etc. Then you will not need a PhD. When after 20 years of personal research, you will actually, even though you do a PhD from university, which is not very high ranked, you can still, do the job. But again, if your country is able to sponsor you, get a scholarship to go to the US or any of these prestigious places in the world, it's better. But if not, don't lose hope and move forward.
Maybe I could add some wisdom here. So
Please.
I would advise a strategy in order to find these PhD positions. One is more passive. So look for the job boards where these are posted. We have a number of them on the Global Plan Council under the resources section. Also under the member section, because several of our members, they post these opportunities on their websites. So if you navigate through our own website, you will be able to find them. This is the passive one. And another one is more active. So you find a researcher or research lab that you like, that you are interested in, and you connect them and you contact them directly via email. That it's the not Facebook, not LinkedIn, nor anything. So use the email, use the old tools, and then trying to have a conversation with them and present your interest and ask if they have opportunities. Many times they have. They are just not posted, or if you share your current work, what you have been doing, maybe you can pick their interest. And you can establish maybe not a PhD opportunity, but some kind of collaboration. So you have these two routes. Social media is useful for the passive, just trying to find the job opportunities that are already out, but you can have an active role too, and try to build it on your own, this opportunity for yourself. It takes more time. So that's
So just before I ask Isabel, it's going to wrap up now. I think we've answered all the questions.
Yes.
And I'll thank our speaker in a moment. Just the next webinar we're hoping will be in October, and the plan at the moment is to have Torkel Tuliska from University of Bergen, who did much of the pioneering work on Konzo in the neurology, and Linley Chawana Carlton, who did all that really interesting social science work in Malawi. So we're hoping that they will come. So with that, I just want to finish this webinar and thank particularly Christophe for a really, really interesting seminar. I think we had some very interesting stuff happening in the chat. I think the questions were very good. I think we had some very knowledgeable and experienced people there as well offering advice. Thank you, Bethany, for your support in putting this together. Particular thanks to the Global Plant Council to host us. And thank you, Christophe, for coming. And I hope that we can keep in touch.
Certainly. Thank you very much, Ross.
Yeah, good. Thank you.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
So just last words about the certificate, because I know that many of the attendees are very interested in getting this certificate of attendance after the webinar. We will start sending the certificates at some point next week, so be patient. And we will send these certificates to the people who stayed here at least 50% of the time of the actual webinar. Okay, so just be patient. I will be starting them in the coming days, and you will get them next week at some point. Okay. So thank you so much. And that's all from my side. And see you during the next webinar. That will be at some point.
Good. Thank you, everyone. Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.